Throughout the 19th century, all women were faced with inequality in almost all aspects of life. These include family law, politics, work, and education. In this documentary, we will analyze the condition of women all across Europe, specifically in France, Britain, and Germany during this time. The transition into the 19th century highlighted the change from a woman's role as a fundamental part of the family business into one that could be best described as homebound. While men were expected to be the primary breadwinners, women began to embody their roles as domestic servants. There were legal codes that required women to give obedience to their husbands. Husbands had the right over the children and had more leniency for their behaviors. Divorce was hard for women all over the continent. This spoke to the complete lack of representation of women in politics. Women were not able to vote in Britain until 1980 for war contribution. As for France, it was only after World War II, and for Germany, 1919 under the Weimar Constitution. It wasn't until the latter part of the 19th century that women were even allowed to own their own property in their own names. For the women of Britain, this opportunity came from the Married Women's Property Act of 1882. In France, a married woman could even open a savings account until 1895. By the 1900s, in Germany, a woman could get a job without permission, but her wages were given to her husband, or what little wages she had. It was common practice to exploit wages given to females based on the pretense that she could rely on her husband or father. Women found jobs that either fit their feminine and nurturing descriptions, such as being a school teacher, or jobs like retail clerks and secretaries. Despite this unjust treatment, many could not complain, as already there weren't enough jobs for women. Social dominance of the middle class instilled expectations that married women should not work. However, those that needed to sometimes had to turn to darker jobs. Prostitution was legalized and subject to government regulations on the continent. The customers of these poor women were primarily working class men. This oppression that women faced led to the rise of political feminism. Political feminists advocated for gender equality. However, there are many difficulties in achieving this equality because even some women refuse to join with women's causes. Some famous feminists include Emmeline Pankhurst, Hubertine Auclair, Flora Tristan, and Millicent Fawcett. In France, almost all French feminists rejected violence. In Germany, German law forbade women from being in politics. In 1894, the Union of German Women's Organization was founded. The German Social Democratic Party supported women's suffrage. The most advanced women's movement occurred in Britain. Here's a clip of an exclusive interview from 1908 with the British feminist Millicent Fawcett.
Hello, and welcome to Alan, the talk show where we discuss the most controversial issues of today.
Hi, Miss Fawcett. Welcome to Alan.
Hello, call me Millicent. Thank you for having me here.
Now, Millicent, I've heard about this women's union that you lead. What is it exactly?
I think you're referring to the National Union of Women's Suffrage Society. In the 1890s, there were 17 different groups advocating for women's suffrage. So instead of all advocating individually, we came together to form this union.
Wow, what you ladies did was actually quite smart. Yet many of you couldn't go to university.
I think you're thinking about Russia, who sadly still hasn't opened up its universities to women. My sister and I, however, were very fortunate and studied at a private boarding school in Blackheath, London. The University of London actually opened up its doors to women in 1878. I know a few women who attend Oxford and Cambridge as well, but for some reason they cannot receive their degrees. I actually helped found Newton College, a women's only college in Cambridge.
That's impressive. I'm sure that you don't receive a lot of support, however.
Not true at all, actually. We know how to work a crowd. I don't mean to brag, but earlier this year we were able to rally almost 500,000 supporters in London. We also had the support of my late husband, Henry Fawcett, who was an important Liberal cabinet member.
I'm sorry about your husband. Now, my last question to you is, why would you want to advocate this type of work equality as a middle-class woman? Aren't you happy with your comfortable and nice lifestyle right now?
It's sad to me that people think that the lifestyle of a middle-class woman in late 19th century Europe is nice and comfortable. Many think that all middle-class women get to do is fill their homes with beautiful china, furniture, carpets, drapery, and such items. They're expected to do all the domestic duties and to be involved in religious and charitable activities. Sure, this sounds comfy, but our talents, our ambitions, our intelligence, and our lives just go to waste. How many of these middle-class women could have done something positive and impacted our society, or done something bigger with their lives? It's just a shame is all it is.
And that's all the time we have today. Thank you, Millicent.
Thank you for having me.
Although there are many people who advocated for the feminist movement, there are much more in the opposition. Data indicates that educated working men did not want women to be admitted into universities because that would overcrowd their jobs. In Prussia, women did not attend university until after the 1900s. In the case of France, it was 1880, and in Russia, 1914. Many women couldn't attend university because they were denied secondary education. Here is a recovered clip of a live debate between anti-feminist Edmund Bradford and the radical British feminist and founder of the Women's Social and Political Union, Emmeline Pankhurst.
Hello, Miss Pankhurst. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Well, I'm sorry I can't see the same.
Well then, I suppose we should just start right
Why
away.
aren't women allowed to vote? We deserve every single right that men possess. There's nothing men can do that women can't. Can you tell me to my face that you are more intelligent and powerful than I am because you're a man?
Well, I can tell you that women don't belong in a man's world. A man's world is for men, exclusively. Because after all, we run the country. Women are just part of the background to procreate and assist men. A woman's world is housework, religion, and charity. Thus, the government is no place for women.
Are you going to continue living in the past? Britain is industrializing and modernizing faster than any other country. In the midst of all this innovation, don't you think women who make up half the population should have a say in the government? After all, it is women who fight back against the oppressive actions of men, who wish to suppress our talents in fear that we will grow stronger than them. Women have always fought for men and for their children. Now it's time that we fight for ourselves.
Are you sure this is the right way for women to earn their rights? You've been a leader of violent and aggressive riots. Does arson and destruction of property help your cause?
There is no better alternative that would guarantee immediate attention for change. Being passive does not work when advocating for change. Furthermore, who are you to judge when evaluating the violence and moralities of my action? After all, it is men who are the chief masters of violence, murdering thousands of innocent people in riots. My aggressive actions prove the urgency and the fact that women deserve the same rights as men.
Well, I still don't understand why we have to debate whether women should be able to vote. After all, the focus of our nation should be national unity, to strengthen Britain, not to battle internally over trivial affairs.
The issue of women's rights is not a trivial affair. It concerns basic human rights and the fair treatment of all humans, regardless of gender. A man who does not care for women's rights does not care for human rights. I guess that's the end of this debate.
The 19th century marked a period where women began to vocalize and rally against the barriers that society experienced confined them in. Whether it be family law, politics, work, or education, the women of Europe were discontent with their marginal parts as subordinates to men. These women were subjected to trivializing roles, discrimination from education, double standards, and were dismissed and beaten to the point where some had to sell their bodies. Despite hesitation and outright opposition from both men and women, in the end, the efforts from those who took a stand led to changes being implemented as a small but significant step towards equality.
Once upon a time, there was an intelligent girl who overcame all odds. She stays true to her faith.
You must be Catholic!
She becomes a working woman. She falls in love. All in a time when women were oppressed. An empowering story for all women. Whatever my powers, feminine or the contrary, God had given them, and I felt resolute to be ashamed of no faculty of his bestowal. Villette by Charlotte Bronte.